what's up, Namaskar, I am Shrikesh and welcome to KM for our vlogs. This is the part 2 of the KPH MOTO Touring Handlebar Riser Kit series for the BS6 or BS3 or BS4 Apache 204V. In this video, I'll be explaining you guys in detail on how to install the KPH MOTO Touring Handlebar Riser Kit on your Apache 204V, what all additional parts you'll require with the kit to install it properly on the motorcycle, what all tools will you require, and lastly, a lot of you guys had a lot of questions regarding this Handlebar Riser Kit. So I'll be answering them step by step. Also, this video is going to be in Hindi as well as in English for all of you guys to understand properly on how to install this kit on your motorcycle. One more important note, if you have some amount of experience in installing parts on your motorcycle or doing some mechanical work, only then attempt to install this Handlebar Riser Kit yourself. Otherwise, go to a proper mechanic and install it, because this is a crucial part and you don't want to mess around with such important components of your motorcycle. Now let's get started with the installation. The first part of the installation is place your motorcycle on the main stand. Park it in such a spot that you do not need to move your motorcycle later on, because once you remove the handle, it would be impossible to steer your motorcycle safely and it would damage the components. The second point is switch off the ignition and remove the key, because once you dismantle the motorcycle, if some wire is loose and it touches the body, you can end up losing your wiring harness. काम शुरू करने से पहले बाइक को आपको मेन स्टैंड में लगाना है एंड आपको ऐसी जगह पर बाइक खड़ी करनी है जहाँ पर आपको बाद में ये मूव ना करनी पड़े, क्योंकि जैसे ही आप हैंडल निकालेंगे तो बाद में बाइक को मूव करना इम्पॉसिबल हो जाएगा. एंड दूसरा पॉइंट यह है कि इग्निशन बंद करके की निकाल ले, एंड जब आप बाइक को डिसमेंटल करेंगे तो इग्निशन ऑन मत करिए, क्योंकि अगर कोई लूज वायर रह गई एंड बॉडी को टच हो गई तो आपका हार्नेस का प्रॉब्लम आ सकता है. अबाउट द टूल किट, यू विल रिक्वायर अ कंप्लीट सेट ऑफ टूल्स एंड अ स्पैनर सेट. आपको पूरा एक टूल किट लगेगा जिसमें एलन की हो गई, स्टार हेड स्क्रू ड्राइवर हो गए, रेंच हो गई एंड स्पैनर्स लगेंगे. After that, you will also need a 32mm ring spanner to remove this big nut. Start by removing both of the rear view mirrors and covering the tank with a proper microfiber cloth. वो mirrors निकाल ले and आपके tank को cover कर ले अच्छे microfiber cloth के साथ, because component गिरे या फिर tool लगा तो आपका प्यारा paint damage हो सकता है. अब हमें सबसे पहले निकालना है ये headlamp assembly. अभी से पूरा निकालने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, सिर्फ यहाँ के 2 bolts निकाले, नीचे के 2 लूज करे, ये हेडलैम्प असेंबली पूरी आगे गिर जाएगी. विल स्टार्ट द प्रोसीजर बाय टिल्टिंग द हेडलैम्प असेंबली फॉरवर्ड. रिमूव दीज 2 bolts and loosen up these 2 here and here so that the headlamp assembly tilts ahead. Once you move your headlamp out of the way, you will be seeing this entire wire setup, the wiring harness of the motorcycle. Now mine is a bit dirty because it is an old motorcycle. You need to disconnect this wire with the orange and red one, which goes to the switch, the ignition switch of the motorcycle. Disconnect this one, and also there is a plastic component behind. You'll have a couple of zip ties here which bind this wiring harness to the plastic part. You need to remove those zip ties as well, because once you change the handlebar, these wires might stretch. To avoid that, you need to remove those zip ties. हेडलैम्प असेंबली आगे झुकाने के बाद ये पूरे वायर्स एक्सपोज हो जाएंगे एंड यहाँ पर पीछे आपको कुछ जिप टाइज दिखेंगे जो कि एक पीछे के प्लास्टिक को इस वायरिंग हार्नेस से कनेक्ट करते हैं. बट आपको वो जिप टाइज जो है वो निकालने पड़ेंगे, क्योंकि आगे हम जब हैंडल बार इंस्टॉल करेंगे तो ये वायर स्ट्रेच हो सकती है. तो इसे फ्री करने के लिए आपको ये जिप टाइज निकालने पड़ेंगे. अगला स्टेप है, आपको ये जो कनेक्टर है ये अपने इग्निशन में जाता है, ये आपको डिस्कनेक्ट करना है सो दैट आप ये इजीली निकाल सके बाद में. आफ्टर दैट यू नीड टू रिमूव द क्लच योक एंड द मास्टर सिलेंडर, फ्रंट मास्टर सिलेंडर. द बोल्ट्स आर 10 mm. रिमूव बोथ ऑफ देम एंड कीप देम ऑन द हेडलैम्प असेंबली. आपको ये जो क्लच योक है निकालना है एंड मास्टर सिलेंडर निकालना है 10 mm के बोल्ट निकालने के बाद, एंड इसे यहाँ पर हेडलैम्प पर रेस्ट कर देना है. यू नीड टू चेंज द क्लच केबल एंड द थ्रॉटल केबल वंस यू रेज द हैंडल बार, बिकॉज द लेंथ इज मोर आफ्टर चेंजिंग द हैंडल बार सेटअप. द थ्रॉटल केबल इज फ्रॉम द TVS Raider and the clutch cable is from the Star CD Plus. Now you will ask whether it is safe to install these cables from the commuter motorcycles on your Apache. Don't worry, these cables of the best quality, and I have tested multiple cables, and only after that I am suggesting you these two, because these two are of the perfect length to suit this handlebar setup. At the same time, they have a great quality, and the mounting points and the connections are exactly the same as that of the Apache, because they come from the house of TVS itself. आपको आपकी क्लच केबल और थ्रॉटल केबल चेंज करनी पड़ेंगी. अभी पार्ट नंबर आपको दिख रहे होंगे स्क्रीन पर. ये क्लच केबल है स्टार सिटी प्लस की एंड थ्रॉटल केबल है TVS Raider की. अब ये क्लच केबल एंड थ्रॉटल केबल की क्वालिटी अपाचे जैसी ही है. डोंट वरी कि आपको कम्यूटर मोटरसाइकिल की क्वालिटी थोड़ी इन्फीरियर मिलेगी, ऐसा नहीं है, क्योंकि TVS की जो केबल्स की क्वालिटी है ओवर द बोर्ड सेम ही है. आफ्टर दैट रिमूव द बार एंड वेट्स विद द 6 number Allen key. Now if your motorcycle is not BS6, you'll need to remove it with an expert mechanic, because it has that old rod and the rubber type style, which is very difficult to remove. Mine is a BS6, it removes easily. Now if your motorcycle is not a BS6, once again you'll have to purchase these bar and weights from the BS6 Apache 200 itself, because the Expulse handlebar will only accommodate these BS6 bar and weights. इसके बाद आपको बार एंड वेट्स निकालने पड़ेंगे विद द 6 नंबर एलन की। अब अगर आपकी मोटरसाइकिल BS6 नहीं है, आपके पुराने स्टाइल के बार एंड वेट्स है, तो आपको BS6 के बार एंड वेट्स खरीदने पड़ेंगे, क्योंकि एक्सपल्स के हैंडल बार पर यही बार एंड वेट्स लगते हैं। नाउ रिमूव द लेफ्ट हैंड ग्रिप, इट इज स्टिक्ड ऑन टू द हैंडल बार, यू नीड टू पुल इट क्वाइट हार्ड। नाउ इफ ड्यूरिंग रिमूवल इट गेट्स डैमेज, इट इज़ अ वेरी चीप पार्ट, यू विल गेट इट एट द सर्विस सेंटर। आपको ये जो हैंड ग्रिप है लेफ्ट साइड की, अब ये निकालनी पड़ेगी, इसे चिपकाया जाता है ऑन दी हैंडल बार, आपको काफ़ी हार्ड पुल करना पड़ेगा। अगर ये डैमेज हो जाती है तो बहुत सस्ती आती है, TVS सर्विस सेंटर में आप ले सकते हैं। Again, I am showing you the bar and weights. Only buy these ones, not the BS4 ones. Show this to the spare parts guy. To remove the switch gear, remove these 2 star head bolts. ये switch gear easily निकल के आ जाएगा। Same on the right hand side, remove this bolt and this bolt. After that, you will be able to remove the right hand side throttle grip. Right side का switch gear निकालने के लिए यहाँ पर एक bolt आता है, यहाँ पर एक bolt आता है, उसे निकाले। After that, you will be able to remove the throttle grip. Keep these properly so that you don't miss them. अब ये पूरा हैंडल बार बेयर हो चुका है। अब हम स्टार्ट करेंगे क्लिप-ऑन्स निकालने का काम। तो नंबर 5 एलन की, रिमूव दीज 2 बोल्ट्स। 5 नंबर एलन की के साथ ये दोनों बोल्ट्स पहले आप निकाल लें। आफ्टर दैट लूजन अप दीज एलन कीज, दिस वन हियर एंड दिस वन देयर, टू रिमूव दिस क्लिप ऑन इटसेल्फ। आफ्टर रिमूविंग दीज 2 बोल्ट्स, आपको 6 नंबर के एलन की के साथ ये 2 बोल्ट्स लूज करना है, यहाँ पर एंड यहाँ पर। लूज करने के बाद आपका क्लिप ऑन निकल के आ जाएगा। योर क्लिप ऑन्स आर कंप्लीटली रिमूव नाउ। नाउ लूजन अप दीज 2 बोल्ट्स, दिस वन हियर एंड द अदर वन ऑन द अदर साइड with a 6 नंबर एलन की once again। अब 6 नंबर के एलन की के साथ ये बोल्ट एंड सेम ऑन द अदर साइड आपको लूज करने पड़ेंगे। ये प्लास्टिक का कवर निकालने के बाद ये नट एक्सपोज होगा। दिस मैसिव स्पैनर इज ओनली अवेलेबल एट अ मैकेनिक्स प्लेस। यू हैव टू रिमूव इट वेरी केयरफुली नॉट टू स्क्रैच और डैमेज एनी ऑफ द कंपोनेंट ऑफ योर मोटरसाइकिल। इट इज़ वेरी टाइट फ्रॉम फैक्ट्री। ये नट काफ़ी टाइटली बैठा होता है, आपको एक बड़ा स्पैनर यूज़ करना पड़ेगा एंड इसे निकालते वक्त काफ़ी केयरफुल रहे, पूरी बाइक हिल सकती है, गिर सकती है, तो बाइक को पकड़ के इसे निकालें। ये नट निकालने के बाद यानी ये बोल्ट्स लूज करने के बाद टी निकालने के लिए रेडी है। अब एक स्टार हेड स्क्रू ड्राइवर लेके हमें ये 2 बोल्ट निकालना है, जिससे ये लॉक सेट निकल जाएगा फ्रॉम द अपर टी ऑफ द मोटरसाइकिल। This is the actual handlebar riser of the motorcycle, the component you will be getting inside the box. In order to mount the lock set on the T-plate, you will have to remove these 2 nuts. You will be provided with the kit itself. Don't remove these 2, just remove these 2 nuts and install the lock set. I've designed this plate in such a way that the lock set fits exactly like the stock T. So it looks like this after installation and it matches the lock set of the motorcycle perfectly. It does not look like an aftermarket job. Now we simply need to install this top T onto the stock position on the motorcycle. After installing the custom T, first tighten up this big bolt and after that you have to tighten up these fork bolts. Keep that in mind, it is a very important procedure. After tightening up this big nut and these 2 bolts, your T will be properly fixed onto the fork and the cone set of the motorcycle. Now once I lock the motorcycle, remove the key, you can see the handle is properly locked, just like on the stock T. So don't worry about the lock set security of the motorcycle after installing this kit. For the handlebar, this is the Xpulse OBD2 handlebar. You have to do a couple of changes to this handlebar to adapt it to the Apache handle switch gears, which is you need to drill a couple of holes, 6 number holes onto your handlebar on both sides. The thing is, the Xpulse has holes below which are not suitable for the Apache 200 switch gear. Now the reason I'm not providing the handle with the holes drilled itself is because each and every Apache has slightly different switch gear. My Apache has this pin which locks onto that hole on the top side. Some Apaches have it at the bottom and the older BS3 or BS4s had it on a different side. So the orientation of the switch gear, the switch cube will change according to this hole. You need to keep that in mind and according to your motorcycle drill the holes in the required orientation. One important point to keep in mind is only the Xpulse OBD2 handlebar comes with these threads at the bar ends to mount bolts and your stock bar end weights. Now along with the kit I am also providing these long bolts which go onto the bar end threads. These bolts are extra long. You simply don't need such long bolts to mount just the bar ends, but I have provided them anyway because later if you need to install knuckle guards you need such longer bolts, right? So I'm providing them beforehand. अब बात करते हैं about the handlebar provided with the kit itself. So this is a BS6 Xpulse OBD2 handlebar. अब आपको इस हैंडलबार में 2 ड्रिल करनी पड़ेंगी, 2 होल्स करने पड़ेंगे. द रीज़न बीइंग आपका जो स्विच गियर होता है उसमें ये जो पिन है ये हैंडलबार के अंदर घुसती है एंड ये जो स्विच गियर ये लॉक होता है, ऐसे घूमता नहीं है ऑन द हैंडलबार इटसेल्फ. मैं ये होल पहले से क्यों नहीं दे रहा हूँ क्योंकि हर एक मोटरसाइकिल का, हर एक अपाचे का मैंने ऑब्जर्व किया कि ये जो पिन है ना ये अलग अलग लोकेशंस पर है। मेरी बाइक में ये ऊपर से है, कुछ बाइक्स में ये नीचे से होती है, एंड BS3 एंड BS4 में अलग से थी। तो आपके मोटरसाइकिल के स्विच गियर के ओरिएंटेशन के हिसाब से आप होल्ड कीजिए। एंड ऑल्सो वन मोर इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग, सिर्फ जो एक्सपल्स BS6 OBD2 बाइक है उसके साथ ही ये जो बार एंड है इसमें थ्रेड्स आते हैं, सो दैट आप बोल्ट माउंट कर सकें एंड आपके स्टॉक बार एंड वेट्स माउंट कर सके। तो मैंने किट के साथ ही ये लंबे बोल्ट्स भी प्रोवाइड किए हैं आपको। एक्चुअली आपको इतने ज़्यादा लंबे बोल्ट्स की ज़रूरत नहीं है सिर्फ आपके बार एंड्स इंस्टॉल करने के लिए, बट मैंने लंबे बोल्ट इसीलिए दिए हैं कि अगर आपको बाद में नकल गार्ड्स लगाने हैं मेरे जैसे, तो लंबे बोल्ट्स आपको लगेंगे, तो मैंने इन्हें पहले ही प्रोवाइड कर दिया है किट के साथ। नाउ विद द हेल्प ऑफ अ 6 नंबर एलन की, रिमूव दीज 4 बोल्ट्स एंड रिमूव द टॉप ब्रैकेट। 6 नंबर एलन की के साथ ये 4 बोल्ट निकाल के ये ऊपर का ब्रैकेट निकाल ले। अब आपको माउंट करना है आपका हैंडल बार, यहाँ पर थोड़ी नर्लिंग की गई है, तो आपको इसे यहाँ पर प्लेस करना है ऐसे। जो आपका टॉप ब्रैकेट है उसे इसके ऊपर प्लेस करके ये चारों बोल्ट्स लगाने हैं एंड सेमी टाइट करने हैं, अभी ज़्यादा टाइट नहीं करने। एंड वन मोर पॉइंट, यू विल रिसीव अ सेटअप लाइक दिस, बट यू हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट द बोल्ट्स इनसाइड देयर, you can see inside there, these are the big bolts which come out from down here. You have to tighten up these bolts which are inside, these 2 ones, as much as possible. As you can see here, the rubber bush has been squeezed as much as possible. You will be receiving it like this, and you have to make sure that it gets like this, so that it gets tightened up. There's no additional free play in your handlebar setup. Now you need to install the handlebar. You'll have a couple of rough patches on the handlebar itself. This is called a knurling. You need to align it with the bracket itself. Place the top bracket on top of it, and again reinstall these 4 bolts. Don't tighten them completely, keep them loose for further process. The reason why I told you not to tighten up these 4 bolts is, sit on the motorcycle, remove it from the main stand, and orient the handlebar according to your liking, according to your reach. After that, tighten up these 4 bolts in a crisscross pattern. So tighten up this first, then this, then this, and then this. हैंडलबार इंस्टॉल करने के बाद बाइक कुछ ऐसी लगेगी। अब आपको ये जो 4 बोल्ट्स है वो थोड़े लूज रखने हैं, मैंने पहले बताया था। द रीज़न फॉर दैट इज़, बाइक पर बैठी है एंड जो हैंडलबार का ओरिएंटेशन है आपके हिसाब से कीजिए, आपके रीच के हिसाब से, एंड देन टाइटन अप दीज 4 बोल्ट्स। आपको ये जो बोल्ट्स है वो क्रिस क्रॉस पैटर्न में टाइट करना है, पहले ये, फिर ये, फिर ये एंड फिर ये। उसके बाद आपको जैसे हमने डिसमेंटल किया था अपना जो क्लच एंड थ्रॉटल का है, केबल है, लीवर है, उसके बाद जो स्विच गियर है वो पूरा जैसे थे वैसे असेंबल करना है विद दीज एक्स्ट्रा होल्स, एंड देन यू आर डन विद द इंस्टॉलेशन। तो मैं आपको अब पूरी प्रोसीजर फिर से नहीं दिखाऊंगा, मैं इंस्टॉल करता हूँ और आपको अगले पॉइंट्स बताता हूँ। आई प्रीटी मच असेंबल्ड द एंटायर हैंडल बार। It is exactly the same as the dismantling process. Your mechanic will do it very well. After that, these bar and bolts, as I'm telling you, these are this long. It goes even further, so that you can mount knuckle guards or those bar and mirrors and stuff easily on your motorcycle. Assembly is complete except the rear view mirrors. I'll install them later on. Now, one important point you have to keep in mind is, once you install the throttle and the clutch cable, keep in mind that these connectors, these wires, don't get pinched below this cable like this. Because if such thing happens, you turn the handlebar, these cables move a lot, right? It will definitely make a cut into the wire and it will void your warranty or get some electrical damage to your motorcycle. So keep in mind that the brake hose, the throttle cable and the clutch cable are underneath, and on top of that you need to install the connectors and all the wiring harness. And also don't forget to connect this lock set terminal so that the motorcycle at least starts. Otherwise you will assemble the entire motorcycle, switch on the key and it won't start at all. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है, पूरी असेंबली होने के बाद आपको जो थ्रॉटल एंड क्लच केबल है जो आपने रिप्लेस की है, ऑल्सो द ब्रेक होज, ये आपको हमेशा नीचे की तरफ रखनी है, एंड जो वायरिंग हार्नेस है वो ऊपर की तरफ, टूवर्ड्स द आउटर साइड। अगर आपने वायरिंग हार्नेस ऐसी नीचे रहने दी, हैंडल आप जब टर्न करते हैं तो ये केबल थोड़ी आगे पीछे हिलती है, तो उससे ये जो केबल्स है ये पिंच हो सकती है एंड वायर कट भी हो सकती है, जिससे वायर इलेक्ट्रिकल प्रॉब्लम एंड ऑब्वियसली वारंटी के प्रॉब्लम हो सकते हैं। तो इस मॉडल से बिल्कुल भी वारंटी वॉइड नहीं होती, मैंने मल्टीपल सर्विस सेंटर्स में पूछा है, नो प्रॉब्लम। जस्ट कीप इन माइंड कि केबल के नीचे ये जो वायर्स है ये आनी नहीं चाहिए, ऊपर से आप यहाँ से प्रॉपर आप टक इन कीजिए एंड देन इंस्टॉल द हेडलाइट पैनल। Let's talk about what are the positives of this handlebar setup. First of all, the most obvious one is a proper relaxed riding posture. You can easily relax and utilize the entire seat while riding on long distance journeys, those 700-800 km per day rides you have. Now, one more important point is, because of those rubber bushes installed in this setup, huge amount of vibrations have been killed out of the handlebar on the motorcycle. One important point is you can install a truckload of accessories on your handlebar now. Because previously if you had the stock clip-on setup, you could not install a phone mount or an additional auxiliary switch for the auxiliary lamps and stuff. You can now install an important safety item, which is the knuckle guards. Another benefit of installing such a raised handlebar is you can do some sort of saddling and ride on those bad patches easily on your 204V. You don't need to just hunch down like this ahead and look all funny and stuff. Some other setups which I've experienced on the Apache 200, their handlebar portion is literally here. It just kills off all the sporty character and the handling of the Apache, and it no longer remains an Apache, to be honest. This setup has been made keeping in mind of retaining the handling characteristics and the nimbleness and the sporty feel of the Apache as well. The usual spot which I go to for shooting these videos has a little bit of off-road, but it is simply not as much as a lot of you guys do at your place. But now I can just hustle around but now I can just hustle around and make these mornings a lot more fun than usual. Whoa, that was a small jump. And here we are. Now let's talk about a few questions, a few doubts you had in the previous video, the launch video of this handlebar riser setup from KPH Moto. Can you install some other handlebar instead of the Xpulse OBD2 handlebar? My answer to that question is yes. Obviously, if the diameter matches this handlebar, you can easily install it with the Dominar clamp. But the thing is, I went to this specific geometry with this specific components so that I could strike a perfect balance between a sports tourer and a naked motorcycle. Now this motorcycle, after the installation of this handlebar, is a proper sports tourer now. So you can install some other handlebar, but then it will completely defeat the purpose of this handlebar setup. So I'll suggest you to go for the Xpulse handlebar itself. After that, next question is the strength and the quality and the durability of this custom plate. While designing this T plate, I had to keep in mind the material of the plate as well. This is made up of steel. Now if I used the stock T with the holes drilled like the previous setup, the problem with that is aluminium, especially cast aluminium, is a brittle material. It is pretty hard, but still it's brittle. So if a really nasty pothole hits your motorcycle, it can break these 2 points and your handle might come out. Instead of that, if we design a plate, a steel plate, steel does not shatter as easily. In the worst case scenario, this plate will literally bend, but not simply dislocate from its position. You will still retain the safety and the stability. Now, this plate has been designed, developed, tested by me myself after a lot of on-road testing as well as computer simulations, and only after that I'm launching this product in the market. After that, we come to one more important question, which is whether these forks will simply pop out after hitting a bad pothole to the motorcycle. In the previous video, a guy commented on this topic. In each and every motorcycle sold in the market, this is the fork and this is the T. This is the basic structure which is pretty much same in each and every motorcycle. This is the lower T and that is the upper T, which we have replaced recently in the handlebar riser setup. Now these components have been designed in such a way that when the fork gets a shock from the road surface, the force is transmitted from this fork through this bottom T into the chassis of the motorcycle. So all the load, all the hits in simple term are carried away, are taken up by this lower T, which is very strong, which is made up of some really thick material. It is steel, not aluminium like the stock upper T. Now all the load, all the impact is taken up, soaken up by this bottom T and into the cone set of the motorcycle. The main function of this top plate is to hold the auxiliary stuff like the handlebar, the lock set, the cone set, and to keep those forks together and not let them twist too much. And at the same time to mount other components of the motorcycle like the headlamp, indicators and the instrument cluster obviously. But then yes, some of the force has to be absorbed by the top plate as well. I've designed this plate in such a way that it takes care of all those forces pretty efficiently, pretty safely. During the testing phase of this custom plate, I've been through some really bad patches and I've hit some really nasty potholes. No damage was found, no bending or breaking was found in this custom plate. Now let's continue with the previous question. Some person commented that these forks might simply pop out after installation of this setup once you hit a pothole. No, that does not happen because as I've discussed earlier, all the force is taken up by this bottom T, and this T clamps onto the fork of the motorcycle. At the same time, I've designed this clamp as well. This clamp clamps onto the fork. It's a very strong, very rigid and very durable connection between the fork and the T plate. I'm explaining in a simple language. So this bottom one and this top one grabs the fork pretty hard, just like the original setup, because of which be rest assured that nothing of that sort will happen once you install this kit. One very important point I need to mention before ending this video is about the brake hose. Now previously I've mentioned that you need to change the clutch cable and the throttle cable of the motorcycle to increase its length and also free up the wiring harness. But what about the brake hose? Because it might end up stretching after you increase the height and the position of the master cylinder, right? Well, in my motorcycle, this hose goes from the front of the front plate, into the ABS unit, which is situated back there. I have done a crazy jugaad which increases the length of this brake hose from the front master cylinder to the ABS unit, because of which I have been able to mount this and this hose from the front of the plate. I'll not suggest you to do that jugaad at all, because I had to do a lot of jugaad work to increase the length of the brake hose. Instead, what you guys do is you get this brake hose and mount it from behind, like this, from behind the custom plate. Get it from back here and into the master cylinder. That will be the safest and the best option for installing. Till today, which is 30th of October, I have received n number of inquiries regarding the Handlebar riser setup. So if you want to order this kit from us, don't forget to check out the description. I have provided the link to the KPH Moto Instagram page and also in the pinned comment down below. If your doubts are cleared, do let me know by giving a thumbs up to this video, and if no, you can ask more in the comments down below as well. So let's end this video here. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel right away, because more of such comprehensive mods, well thought after mods are coming up on the Apache 200 4V very soon on this channel from the house of KPH Moto. I'll see you next time very soon. Take care guys.